Hey guys, welcome back to Sword of Convallaria. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the best team you can make for your account. Now, this has been the most highly recommended video in the comments, so that is why we're doing this one. Just note that in this game, there is no general formula for teams. Depending on the map and the enemies, you are going to adjust your formation. For instance, if the enemy team is like all seekers, well, like all seekers, you'll probably bring a few defenders, or if they're all breakers, you'll probably bring more seekers, so on and so forth. Because of that advantage, there is a thing. Then obviously we have maps where you can knock characters off. If that's more available, then you're going to be more characters that have knockbacks, so you can just cheese through mechanics. Likewise, if there's explosive barrels and stuff, you're probably going to bring less melee, bring more ranged, so that you can start blowing those barrels up and affecting your enemies. Just note that there is a lot of nuance in team building in this one, but what I want to look at is a good staple team for you guys to focus on that you can then develop around, because like I said, this has been the most commonly asked question in the comments recently. So first of all, a staple team, and this is like your core team. Once again, you will have flex spots. I like to have a tank. Easy one here is Mytha. Everyone has Mytha. She's a solid tank. She's fine for now. That's all you need. Another one I really like is Suppression, but Mytha is just the safe option for everyone to recommend. So you want a tank. Then you want a healer. Now, I'm using Angel because I don't have Inanna. If you have Samantha as well, she is another great option. But for a lot of people, it's Angel. Now, the great thing about Angel is that we do get her free copies along the way through the Voyage Memento, so you will end up getting her max duped naturally. Now, these are going to be your core 2 members. The remaining 3 slots fall to at least 1 damage dealer. So if you are someone who has pulled for Beryl or Cole, they will fill that slot, whether it be Beryl or Cole. Beryl or Cole. Dude, say that 10 times fast. I can't even do it. So those are going to be your 2 options if you did pull for them. Now, one other slot is Gloria. I'm going to assume that a lot of people have pulled for Gloria, and she just slots into any team. The way she buffs movement at the start of the battle is too much to pass up on. Now, there is one other unit that I've seen that does have a movement buffing effect. I'm sure there's others as well, and that is going to be Flame Sorceress. If we take a look at her tree here, this one here, you get grants move 2 and immunity to move down to all allies within 2 tile range of the target location for 2 turns, but it is on a 5-turn cooldown. And the other problem with this ability is that she is a super slow character, so it's not very effective. But I just thought I'd mention that just in case you want some extra movement. But Gloria kind of doesn't fill the role of anything specifically. She fills the role of buffer and DPS because she's so good at that, plus she has the knockbacks. So if you have Gloria, she's just going to make it feel like you've just got a really beefed up team, essentially. So if you have Gloria, slap her in there. Now, I will talk about not having her in a sec, but for now, I'm just going to assume most people, because she is the radar banner, have been pulling and trying to get Gloria because she's basically the banner you want to go for if you're not going for any of the others. But let's say you picked up Gloria and it took all your summons and you don't have any of the others. What are you going to do with your team? For me, if you're looking to build a general team, if you have Rewire already, great, you can slap her in there. She is a good option. If you don't, then you will get her later, but let's look at other options. I feel like for range DPS, the safest recommendation I have here is Divine Grace. Now, Divine Grace is just absolutely amazing, especially considering that we are going to be pairing this with our free-to-play healer, which is, what was our free-to-play? I always, the names just leave me on these common characters. Angel. So he synergizes super well with Angel. Now, I've taken some talent tree options here that what I prefer, but I just want to have a look at it. So his physical attack increases by 7%. The character additionally deals 15% more damage when having 3 or more buffs. So we get a damage buff for having more buffs. And then if we go on to his other skills, the character gains 15% bonus attack and 30% bonus defense while not affected by any debuffs and affected by at least 3 buffs. So you want to keep this guy buffed up. And then if we look at Angel, the key synergy here is when we look at her trait, the healing effect is increased by 12%. After healing an ally, grants 2 random level 1 attribute buffs to the target. Now, at base, this is only 1. I think at 3-star, this turns to 2, and at 5-star, it turns into 3. And if she's healing him, putting 3 on him, well, there you go. There's his buff situation met. Now, on top of that, she's got a single target heal and an AoE heal, and both of these dispel debuffs, because his other condition with Divine Grace is that you want to have no debuffs on him. So being able to dispel those debuffs, even though it's only 1 per heal, and grant him 3 buffs every time she heals him is fantastic. However, you may say, well, is it useless to use them together early on when she's only giving him 2 buffs? Well, then we have the other thing with Divine Grace, which is fantastic, which is the reaction ability that you can pick up increases the healing received by 10%. When receiving healing, it gains damage up by 20% for 1 turn. So by healing him, you will be applying 2 random buffs until you get to 5-star, then 3 random buffs and a damage increase as well, which not only is that an extra buff for him to meet the conditions of this passive and this passive, but it's also just a straight up extra 20% extra damage on him. So you can see how he starts to snowball the damage. Now, if we take a look at this one in his abilities, so his core ability that he gets is a knockback with a 3 tile cross range. It is really, really solid and really helpful for him. Now, the other ability that I picked up through the talent tree is this one. It does have a 3-turn cooldown and a 2 cost, but this one he does AoE damage around a target up to 4 tiles away. So this gives him extra range, but also gives him slight AoE capabilities, and this ability is fantastic for exploding barrels, interacting with other stuff like that, and also just dealing damage to multiple enemies in a group. So that is why I think if you're going with a free-to-play route and you don't have any luxury characters, him plus her is fantastic. Now, if you have Gloria, even better, because she has another buffing capability. Obviously, with her buffs, and she can, because she's so quick, she can actually completely buff him up straight away without having to worry about getting to her turn. Because if we look at speeds on these characters, you can see his speed is 94 and her speed is 80. So unfortunately, the one downfall that we have if you don't have Gloria or other buffing units is that he is normally going to move before your Angel. So your first attack won't have all those benefits. But once again, if you have Gloria and you go ahead and use Gloria, especially if you pick up both of her level 2 skills, whereas the spear and the buff. So if we go into this one, we got the attack up and damage reduction, along with the fact with her trait, we're doing the flag waving and getting those buffs. So she's going to instantly stack it. So I think this is a really, really solid team call for free to play who only pulled for Gloria. Then that last position is what I consider to be a completely flex position. If we're looking at free to play options, we can put Crimson Falcon in here. This gives us some really good movement, obviously, because we have Gloria, but it gives us good ranged coverage, and it also gives us a nice little assassin to go ahead and pick enemies off. However, once again, if you are at the stage where you've picked up Rewire, you can always go ahead and slap her in there. Then we got a balanced team with a ranged DPS, a melee DPS, healer tank, and then buffer / additional DPS / just absolutely cracked unit. So those are the things I would be looking at. Now, like I said, with this kind of team, if you pulled yourself a Cole, then I think she goes great into this team and it's really well balanced. Once again, I would be using with this team personally, I'd be going something like this. However, in situations where obviously a bunch of range damage is going to be required, I'd go something like this. Then if we have heavy AoE type situations, I'm still a fan of Stormbreaker in heavy AoE. There's a bunch of different options. If there's one annoying enemy that you really need to lock out, you can slap Abyss in there and sleep them for 2 turns. So like I said, I feel like this is a very solid team core. Once again, every situation is going to be different, but this is going to be a really solid team core for people to just sort of progress through the game. Once again, slapping in any other unit that you've pulled along the way into this final slot can be really, really fine. Now, people will ask about Fakel. I actually prefer Divine Grace to Fakel personally. That is my personal experience from testing them, but you guys can always chuck in your day 3 free Fakel in that team as well. So that is what we are looking at. My current main team personally looks like this, where I've got my range DPS, I've got my melee DPS, it gives me pretty good coverage and everything, and that's what we're looking at. Now, if we didn't have the Gloria, what would we be looking at? I actually really like, as a substitute for Gloria's position, is adding an extra buffing style unit. Lightning is one that I have grown really fond of. Lightning is a good buffer. We get extra crit buffs for allies nearby her. We get an attack buff for an ally as well. She can buff herself and deal decent damage too, so she does have that kind of role. Obviously, we do lose a lot of the utility that we gain out of something like a Gloria, but that is not a bad little option. And then once again, you can go for that same sort of strategy here, and now you can place in whatever next slot unit you want, whether it be a tech unit or another DPS. That is up to you. But once again, if you don't have Gloria, I still recommend pulling for her so you can slot her into your team, because Gloria is a very pivotal unit. But besides that, like I said, that is a very good staple team. But at the end of the day, you can really take whatever you want. Like I said, Gloria, very, very staple. And then just take, if you want to balance it out, take a ranged and a melee DPS, and you're pretty much good to go. Some situations, you know, maybe that you're trying to box enemies out and keep them away, you're going to go something like this. And there is different methods that you can go depending on the situation. Like I said, there is no one size fits all for this kind of stuff, but I do think as a base core, using Mytha, Angel, and Divine Grace is a really solid core, especially when you pair it with the Gloria in that team, and then you've got a remaining slot to put whoever you want. Like I said, if you pull some better options that you like, for instance with me with Beryl, you can drop the Divine Grace and use another ranged sort of DPS. Now, once again, other situations call for different things. If I need more knockbacks, well, then I slap Divine Grace in there. Then I've got 3 knockbacks on my team again, and I can just start punting everyone off the map. But like I said, I feel like this is a very good stable team for new players. Definitely recommend going ahead and pulling that Gloria, because she really does make these teams really cool. Eventually, we will hit modes where we do need 2 teams, but I don't think they're in the global version of the game yet, which is the harder tower mode where you do need 2 teams. So we will have to evolve past that, and I will cover second teams once we actually get to that stage on global of needing it. But that is my basic roundup of the kind of team I would be looking for a pure free-to-play player, and then how you can evolve that team depending on what you've pulled. Like I said, just fill those slots. You pull a different healer, you pull Inanna, you pull Samantha, just chuck them in that healer slot. You pull another tank that you like, go slap them in that tank slot. Then you pull another DPS, slap them in the DPS slot. Just keep in mind the way the map works, what you can abuse in the map, and what characters are aiding in that abuse. But keep in mind, we do still have those tech characters that are really good for certain situations, like Abyss for locking out an enemy with that sleep, which can be super, super helpful in hard situations. So that is my roundup on team building for free to play especially. Let me know what team you guys are using, and as always guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.